It seems that many people in the media and Democratic establishment have learned the lesson about treating Trump supporters like trash, and they regret it, especially now as we're seeing the rise of Bernie Sanders. You get all these never Trumpers, right? And they were like, Trump is the worst. Hillary Clinton is better, they claimed. And then they started to realize that the Democratic Party was being overtaken by Bernie Sanders. And now they're running back the other direction with their tails between their legs, panicking that the Never Bernie movement is stronger than the Never Trump movement. I assure you, a conservative who doesn't like the moral degeneracy of the Trump administration will vote for the moral degeneracy of the Trump administration when it comes to the economic degeneration of the United States. I'm saying if that's your opinion about the Trump administration. Now, I certainly think Trump has got some moral issues for sure. And it seems the Democrats are running on a moral platform, but Trump is running on an economic platform. So here's my first question before we talk about Trump's secret whisper network. Let me ask you, in a battle of morality and money, who wins? The guy telling you he's going to do the right thing, or the other guy telling you he's going to stuff $100 in your pocket? It's actually a good question because I'd say for the most part, people are going to choose the money, especially when the morality is questionable. I think when it comes to a clear dividing line of like hard morality versus cash, it would depend for the most part on the cash. But I would say typically morality can win out. In this instance, I do not believe it can, because the morality being pushed by, say, Bernie Sanders and the Democrats, it's not that big of a deal. Trump's a potty mouth who's mean. That's about it. He's a bully. He's arrogant. He's a narcissist. Yeah, those are bad character traits, but they're not, they don't end, they're not deal breakers. When it comes to people voting, they're like, yeah, you got a really awful guy, but I'll take that sweet loot. Then you got to consider the moral questions around Trump's behavior and the things he does versus the economic damage of a far left campaign or otherwise. And in the end, I think economics is going to win out. But here's a story from the New York Times that I find funny. What happens when the left cedes the free speech high ground? Let me show you something. Let me show you this. Pollsters got it wrong in the 2016 election. Now they want another shot. Sorry, pollsters, you're wrong again. Joe Biden, the front runner? Womp. As soon as the Iowa, the caucus, and the New Hampshire primary ended, Joe Biden sank like a bag of cement in the middle of the sea. He's gone. He was never the front runner, and tons of us called it out. People on independent media knew for sure that wasn't the case. So why were the polls wrong, and why are they wrong again today? I honestly don't know. But the New York Times writes an interesting op-ed, or Brett Stevens of the New York Times. Because the left has taken free speech, not just in the sense that they'll censor you on social media or they want hate speech laws, but in the sense that if you say the wrong thing, they will try to destroy your life. Trump supporters are in hiding. They are, many of them. Not so much anymore. We've heard stories the data from the upshot. The New York Times says that Trump's base today is bigger than ever. Maybe it isn't. Maybe what you're really seeing is people crawling out from behind that, rock because they're not scared anymore. Maybe all of these walk away campaign individuals that, who are quitting the Democratic Party, maybe they quit a long time ago and now they're just finally admitting it. This article basically states the Whisper Network is people who are Trump supporters keeping their mouths shut, not wanting anyone to know that they're going to vote for Trump because they're scared of the social ramifications, but they're enjoying too much of the benefits. And that brings me back to the question of morality versus money. These people think Trump is not that bad. And that's the worst thing in the world for Democrats, because if it is true that Trump is not that bad, that means that it's okay to sacrifice a little bit of morals in exchange for a booming economy that helps the rest of the country. Now, if Trump literally did go on to Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, he probably would drop in the polls, because that's a hard line for a lot of people, as much as he might not think so. So let's read a little bit about this. He says, in recent years, these whisper networks have only proliferated from one subject one institution, one domain, and another. Is sex biologically speaking binary? A columnist for the Denver Post thought so, and last month lost his job. He claims the direct result. Should writers of one race or culture be able to create characters and inhabit cultures not their own? One such writer recently had her book tour canceled over safety concerns following criticism of her novel about the plight of Mexican immigrants. You needn't take one position or another on any of these questions to notice or object to the overall trend. Speech is free, except where and when it isn't. Widely held religious views entail potentially ruinous professional hazards. Broad areas of intellectual inquiry are treated as off limits. Having a bad opinion means being a bad person. People who freely share the most intimate details of their sex lives with near strangers think twice about sharing some of their political views with old friends. And a new version of the Miranda warning seems to apply across all media, social and traditional. Anything you say or have ever said in context or out, deliberately or by misspeaking, can and will be held against you. But here's the point I want to make about all this. What we're seeing from stories like this is that, in fact, while Trump may be an arrogant, narcissistic potty mouth and a bully, his morality and principles are actually favorable to many of these people. And that is free speech. The idea that Trump can say these things and do what he wants is freeing to many people. And they feel like by backing him, they can tell you to go F off. They can say what they want and you can't do anything about it. And that's one of the reasons they rally around Trump. Still, there are many people who are scared to say they actually support the president. This leads them to what's called the whisper network. But when you look at the hard data, the facts are the facts. Gallup released a poll only a couple days ago. More in the U.S. say they are better off than in past elections. Do you think the questions of morality are strong enough to stop people from voting for Trump when the economy is good and you are oppressing people, their creativity? Let's talk about oppression. Is oppression you writing a book about Mexican immigrants? No. Is oppression threatening someone with death for writing a book about Mexican immigrants? Yes. Is oppression when there are too many, is it oppression when there are too many Asians at Harvard? No. Is it oppression when you tell someone who is Asian they're not allowed to go to a school because they look too much like other people? Yes. And if that's the case, who's doing the oppression today? It's the moral authoritarians on the left, not the right. It used to be in the past that it was the right, not so much anymore. Some things started to change, don't know why. An insurgent group of moderates and libertarian types, along with Donald Trump, were activated and pushed themselves into the Republican Party, knocking out many of the never-Trumper moral authoritarian types, the overt religious authoritarian morality police. And what was left was a group of people who are more interested in making memes, having a good time, and they don't care that Donald Trump is of questionable moral ethics in many circumstances. They care that the country is working, and they care that they're free. That's it. I think a lot of the people who supported Trump were overtly libertarian, or more so libertarian. I don't mean big L, I mean anti-authoritarian, anti-establishment. I'm not saying Trump's perfect. Trump's definitely done things with regards to foreign policy, especially the other day, big story about an air raid in Afghanistan that killed like 8 or 11 civilians, depending on who you ask. So there's questions of it, but at least inside this country, domestically, a lot of people are happy. They're saying they're better off now than they've been before. So what does it leave us with? It leaves us with an election based on moral values. And boy, oh boy, does Bernie Sanders take the cake. According to a USA Today Ipsos poll, assuming it's correct, because it's probably not, for voters, Bernie Sanders outranks other Democrats and Trump on values and empathy. Oh, I definitely believe that. Listen, I think it is a very empathetic thing to say that you want someone to have health care or be able to go to college and make their lives better. But is it practical? The answer to that question is not really, not based on what's going on today. So when Donald Trump doesn't say those things, and he's kind of a dick, but the economy is great, people aren't going to really care about what he's saying to them. They're going to care about whether or not he's making things work, and things are literally improving. Because otherwise you're talking about, candy canes and rainbows, pie in the sky hopes and dreams that never get implemented. One of the strangest things to me out of all of this is that many people on the left want a 4-day work week. They want increased wages. They want better benefits. Guess what? Under Trump, all of those things have started to emerge in the economy. As businesses do better, they're offered. There's one. It was a Shake Shack, I think, that said we're doing a 4-day work week now, and everyone's still getting a pay raise. They're still making the same amount of money, so they're getting an extra day off. I could be getting the shops mixed up, and then there was like Starbucks doing a paid leave. Wages are on the rise. Unemployment is down across the board. All of these things the left claims they wanted are being implemented under a more free market approach, as opposed to an iron fist approach you would see from the government forcing it to happen. Now, Bernie Sanders, as far as I'm concerned, is probably too far left. But more importantly, I think character matters. I really, really think it does. Morality will play a huge role in this upcoming election. And if Trump supporters think they're going to skate by on a good economy, you will be mistaken. Donald Trump really does lose a lot of people because you need to understand just how much people truly do not like this man. It may not be most or all, but enough. And that's bad news for Trump. However, I think the economy wins out for most average people. Ben Shapiro recently said that women will hold their nose to vote for Trump, and a bunch of people got mad, but I think he's right. Yeah, 68% of millennial women are Democrats, and the number is probably going up. But at a certain point, these people who are millennials and probably, as I think Breitbart called it, default liberal, they're going to start prioritizing their needs and the changes they want to make to their lives over questions of morality. But I'll throw this back and make one more important point. Because of the questions of morals and social acceptance, this is why so many Trump supporters keep their mouths shut. But I think what we're seeing with the idea of this whisper network shows that morality isn't as important, or more importantly, there is a certain morality in being free and being oppressed by far left lunatics who will destroy your life for saying the wrong thing on accident or through ignorance is no way to live. So morals will actually be, to a certain degree, a bad thing for Bernie Sanders. Look, we all get it. It's poor morals to call someone horseface. But sometimes people just want to express themselves, even if it's morally wrong, amoral. So they look to someone like Donald Trump, they see him pushing back, and there's this idea that if Trump is the line, if that's where he is saying these things, then you can be on the you can be just up against it without crossing it like he does, and not have to worry about having your life destroyed. The far left made this bed themselves, and they will, well, they're going to sleep in it. Stick around. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.